Welcome back, everybody. Business Monday. We have Mr. Innovation here, the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, sponsored by our dear friends over at Deepwater Wind. We've had discussions of radio and media having spasms. We had Gary Sass talking about the state budget, federal tax reform. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk Uber. Uber, it was disclosed last week, one of our favorite innovator companies, the big disruptor, new leadership, clean leadership, and not disclosed by Uber, but good journalism found out that they had a massive data breach. They not only covered it up for a year, but they what is considered an absolute violation, a no-go. They paid off the hackers a couple $100,000. Is this company bad to its very bone?
Well, this is the gift that keeps on giving. I think this is a legacy of Travis.
We're going to blame him for the year
of course,
later? Right.
Of course we are. But what's interesting about this is
was he your rival in college or something?
It's not that they got hacked. I mean, everyone gets hacked. What's interesting here is that they didn't disclose it for a year. Never mind disclose it publicly. Their own board of directors didn't know this was going on. So I think corporate governance is the thing that we really have to look at here, right? And so I think Travis controlled this board. I think he controlled the lines of communication in terms of what the board was aware of. And here's a classic example. I mean, it's unbelievable that the board didn't know this. So Travis is gone. The new CEO,
and we're still going to keep blaming Travis.
Yeah, of course, because the new CEO has not only, I think, got the right bones, but has really been credible about needing to change the culture there. And
so should he go into morning meetings and say, okay, before I came on, did we kill anyone? Did we bury anyone's bodies in a landfill? Did we rob old ladies? I mean, what level of corporate malfeasance is this company guilty of?
It's rooted deeply, and we know this from all the conversations we had about Travis and what went on there. So if you're new, you can only claim you're new for so long.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
You want all the skeletons out of the closet right now, right? And so you can bet that the new CEO is working hard to get all those skeletons out, right? So that they can do what they need to do. Let's start with governance. Let's get to the business practices.
Well, let's say he finds out some other things. There's two realities in a corporate setting, right? And there's two competing forces. There is the force of public relations, who may or may not say disclose or not disclose, depending on the strategy of his public relations team. And then there's the legal team. And by that legal team is never for disclosure in the history of the free world. It is always for paper it up, pay it off, get non-disclosures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So, I argue, and we've often talked about transparency, and that we should be disclosing these things publicly, and as a public company, we should have visibility into that. I agree with that, but what's more egregious to me than whether or not they disclosed something publicly was that the board of directors was not aware. When we live in a world where a public board of directors isn't able to fulfill its responsibility from a pure governance standpoint, we've got a bigger problem. Right, and so I think we have to re-examine these boards and governance and what we hold boards accountable for, and what it means to take some of these public, board seats. That's the failing here that I see. I think you give the new CEO a pass as long as he's aggressive and putting changes in place, and they're being held accountable, obviously legally, right? But I think you're going to see this.
I don't say this in jest, but a little bit in jest. How long is long enough? I mean, he's been in the helm for 6 months, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, not a year.
Not a year. So is it a year? Is the clock the year? Is that where?
Listen, I think the time frame is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, obviously, where we don't let people get away with, I'm the new leader, right? But clearly, for the amount of time he's been there, for the size of this organization, right, you're going to give him a pass provided he's making the changes that are necessary. I think you end up, towards the end of his first year, and if there start to get uncovered some things that are happening on his watch, decisions that he made, we can have a whole different conversation conversation. But you know, there was a lot of things that went on at Uber that none of us liked, and we probably only saw a tip of the iceberg.
Right.
In the end, right, this company will survive if they get that right, they right that ship, and they continue to deliver the kind of value that they deliver in the markets that they compete in. So we'll see.
Your prediction for the next few months in Uberland, is this going to be the new era of disclosure and transparency, or is this going to continue with a series of bumps and bruises and failure to disclose?
Yeah, I don't know if we've seen all of the remnants of the Travis error, let's call it that, at Uber. So I don't want to predict that there aren't other skeletons there that are going to come out. Maybe they will. I don't know. If I'm the new CEO, I'm making sure that they're getting out now and fast, and we're dealing with them in a forthright and aggressive way. And listen, customers vote with their feet. If they've broken laws,
Yeah.
we could talk about cybersecurity and the hacking aspects of this.
Well, they're certainly
right?
going to get sued by state attorney generals,
Sure.
because it appears that they are in violation of a number of state laws that had time frames as to when they had to alert their customers as to when the breach took place.
Yeah, but
and
there's
that-
all kinds of issues there.
Yeah.
Labor laws and how they handle their employee base.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of issues about this bold business model. There's a lot of people who
You were
love
the
to say-
founder
Yeah,
and chief catalyst at BIF, right?
I think so. Last
Then
I
who-
checked.
Then who the heck do you blame if you're the
What?
founder?
I'm not. I'm not big into blame. What's this compulsion with having to blame somebody
You've
all
just
the time?
nailed Travis
How about
27
let's
times.
decide what we need to do and make it better. I like their model. I have some real concerns about them. Now I can add governance to that. So let's get that right.
Speaking of companies, some potentially good news,
Yeah.
but also a company that's got
Yeah.
some governance issues and some
Yeah.
complexity. The governor
Yeah.
had a press
Yeah.
conference with Infosys
Yeah.
today and announced that over the next 5 years, there would be 500 new jobs located in Rhode Island. This is a company that's got a range of issues, and not as long ago as Travis. The biggest upheaval was in August, September, when they shuffled their longstanding CEO out. And they're a complex company playing big boy tech business
Yes, they
all
are.
over the world.
Yes,
they
they
are
are.
criticized often. What's this mean for Rhode Island?
Well, first of all, can we? I'm surprised you didn't lead with this. The Infosys deal. Say, can we at least spend a few minutes actually celebrating a really good win for the state? Here's a situation where the development team actually did its job,
Yep.
created an engagement with them that was escalated. We brought the right people to the table. We've got a governor who's fearless in these situations,
Right.
presents the state in very aggressive terms, has built a track record of success in these conversations. And here's a deal to bring 500 really good higher wage jobs to our state, with people standing up talking about the reasons, a design and innovation center, lots of players that were involved in the conversations. How about we say, yes, like this is a really, before we start nitpicking on, let's talk about what incentives were used, and
Sure.
let's talk about the outsourcing business, let's talk about how people are talking about Trump and what credit he gets or doesn't get. It's all about Rhode Island being aggressive and positioning ourselves and taking advantage of our strengths. And here's a situation where we've done it, and as I listen to talk radio over the course of the day driving over here, all everybody wants to talk about is what's wrong with the deal. As far as I can tell, I haven't seen a lot of the details of the deal yet. All I know is that we got into a game, right, by being aggressive. We actually got a major global player to pick Rhode Island, lots of places that they could put that center, and they chose here in Rhode Island. This is a good thing.
You make the same points Gary Sass made. He
Oh,
led
that's
off
nice
with
to
it.
know.
Yeah,
I didn't hear him, but
absolutely. Yeah, not usually. You two
Really?
aren't always consensus
That's true.
makers.
That's true.
We haven't seen the details of
Of
the
course.
deal. We've gotten a top line number of $10 million in incentives. They've produced some other new
Yep.
centers in the southern states,
Yep.
getting the details
Yep.
on that. There's some questions about how this deal will be constructed, and will these jobs
Yeah.
be American jobs?
Yeah, and we should look at that. Of
Yeah.
course, we want it to be transparent. We want to see the details, and there'll be a time to ask all those questions. But for one day,
Yeah.
for one day in Rhode Island, could we actually celebrate, that something went right? And there've been a bunch of these things that have gone right, but of course, now that we get into silly season,
Right.
we're in
Well,
the
and
political
listen-
cycle. Everybody's going to want to jump right away on, like, I would never have done that deal. You don't even know what the details of the deal are yet, and you wouldn't have done it. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I do
Yeah.
think the governor runs into
Yeah.
this trouble herself in some ways because there's not a lot of disclosure. And so there's a press conference with a lot of champagne and a lot of spotlights and things like that. And then instead of just disclosing the deal and say, hey, this is why we did the deal, it may be expensive, it may not be expensive, here's some good parts, here's some bad parts to it, everything is so rosy. So then as people have become cynical to them, let me tell you, the minute that announcement went up, the social media world was negative.
The local social media world or,
Yeah.
or national?
No, within Rhode Island.
Yeah.
The social media world.
Yeah, and you don't think that's just healthy Rhode Island cynicism?
No.
Like,
I think
like,
that I think it's the
right.
coupling of the two.
Right.
It's the
Right.
overinflation of the global importance of this, and that there's no downside to it. It's all positive. It's all great.
Yeah, well-
coupled with the cynicism of Rhode Islanders who are concerned about and questioning her deal making,
okay,
etc.
okay,
So I think the
but
complexity.
I
But
can-
without a
but
doubt,
I can step back from that and look at it and say, look at how they got themselves in position
Yeah.
for the conversation, for the deal. I think Infosys, is coming here for strategic reasons. I think they're legit, right? So I think this is not because of political pressure. These folks that are talking about national, politics here, Infosys they have over 200,000 employees.
Globally.
90% of them are in India. There is an emerging backlash to outsourcing deals. I'm not talking about the politics of
Right.
it. The actual customer service model and what companies want when they want IT services.
Right.
There's no question that Infosys needs to put more resources here in the States if they're going to keep serving. I think 62% of their revenue is from North America.
Right.
90% of their employees are sitting in
Well,
India.
let me-
Of course, and they're talking about what, 10,000 jobs across America
Yeah.
out of 200 plus thousand. I mean, they've got to do this. I mean, these people are saying they're doing it because of what the president said or did. I think that's nonsense. They have to do it. You go talk about strategic outsourcing of IT services with a large Fortune 100 company, headquartered here in America. They're putting more pressure on Infosys to have a nexus here in America. Now, where they put that is up to them. We competed for that, and those 500 jobs, that win is a very big deal. We should celebrate it.
in 2015, Citizens Bank cut hundreds of Rhode Island jobs and outsourced it to Infosys.
Yeah.
So that's the world we live in.
Well, how do you
Tom
think,
Friedman.
How do you think Infosys got as big as they are?
Right.
Right? Because,
They are replacing
and
internal-
why do you think 62% of their revenue comes from North America? Because
Right.
this is where the big companies are that had to source IT capabilities, and they did what all companies do. They find the best capability at the lowest price they can get it
Right.
at, right? In order to deliver value to their customers, us, the people who buy stuff.
Right.
Right? And we like getting lower prices. What we don't like is when it hits home.
Right.
I keep saying this quote, everybody loves innovation until it affects them. Right? So we love it when it doesn't impact us locally. The minute we start losing jobs, all of a sudden we say, whoa, we can't have that. Well, we should be about innovation here in Rhode Island, which means we got to get ahead of that curve. Having strong IT digital design capabilities is strategic for companies across the world. Infosys is in that business. We want to be part of that game. I think it's really good news that we put ourselves into that deal. I even like the scale of it. Right, some people are saying some of the southern locations got a commitment
2,000,
for 2,000
3,000.
jobs, and we got 500. That's okay. When we talked about the Amazon headquarters deal, and people are talking about 50,000 jobs, I just don't think that's realistic here.
Right.
I think when you start talking about 500 500, 1,000 jobs and starting there and demonstrating how strategic it is, maybe we can get bigger.
Right.
But let's do something that's realistic and practical. I think 500 jobs and sourcing that and delivering on our commitments sounds like a commitment we could keep.
Commitment we can keep, GE,
Yeah.
a commitment that we've got that I think everybody is nervous about. This world is small, the great can
Yep.
turn more mortal. I mean, the idea of
Yep.
GE stock now being priced
Yeah.
at $15
Yeah, it's
a
amazing, isn't
share,
it?
right?
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
The worst
Yep.
performing S&P 500 stock, I think, over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
How does this happen? Is it the failure to innovate, the failure
Yeah.
to call BIF,
Well,
and to have BIF
Well,
into
it's,
the...
it's clearly a failure to call BIF. I mean, they just didn't, they just didn't innovate fast enough. When you need to transform, not tweak,
Yeah.
right? You better start exploring that, modeling that, showing, because you don't, on a dime, when you're the size of GE, move that Queen Mary all the way to some transformed state.
Right.
I think the digital space is the right space for them strategically, to change their business models and their products and services. They waited too long to do it. Right, Immelt got what he got because
Right.
it didn't happen fast enough. We'll see what the new guy does. I'm a little nervous, that they keep talking about kind of downsizing their strategic investment in the digital, which would affect us here.
Absolutely.
In the headquarters location in Boston. That's short-sighted for GE. Right, that's the place where the new business models are going to come
Well,
from.
boy, oh boy, the cuts are
Right.
coming everywhere. I mean, one of their core
Yeah.
businesses is locomotives, and
Right.
they're unraveling one of the biggest deals in the transportation
Yeah.
sphere.
Yeah.
The knife is not missing much of anything right now in the GE world.
Yeah.
Obviously, the implications here. I think there's 50 or 60 people here. The goal was to get to 100. That would.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect here. Maybe it slows it down a little bit, but at that scale,
Right.
I don't think that they're going to make a decision based on that scale. I think the challenge for us here is we've now strung together a series of opportunities and deals,
Right.
all in this digital IT space.
Yeah.
And so
And,
all of it's
medical,
right,
and a little medical
yeah,
with
but,
J&J.
yeah, but a lot of it is even the J&J deal. A lot of it comes back to. I'm really glad to hear the design, made it onto the label of
Yeah.
this new Infosys thing, because we have to play that up more.
Right.
We have a real strength there. But one of our real challenges is gonna be how long are we gonna keep making promises about being able to tap into a digital workforce, a digital ready workforce, when we haven't made the changes in our education system necessary to do it? I mean,
Is the hope and prayer that we tap into engineering students out of Brown, engineering students out of URI, and those are going to be the ones that are going to be the first wave. It's kind of attacking Normandy, and that will have so many opportunities for them here that they'll be able to stay after graduation.
I think some of it's going to come, from people, that end up leaving for opportunity, that on the margin will find an opportunity attractive to stay here.
Right.
Right. Part of it's going to come from people that move to the state.
Right.
Right. For jobs, these companies can move people here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a pretty nice place to move. And actually, people who come in from the outside, look at it and say, this place is incredible. It's only it's those of us who live here, who complain about it all the time. It's actually a really special place. And so people don't mind coming here. Right, and so that'll fill some of it, but a big chunk of it, I'm going to say half of it, has got to come where we grow our own.
Yeah.
Where we're able to educate folks. We've got to work on K through 12. We've got to work on better and more seamless transition to post-secondary. I think CCRI, which was in the discussion with Infosys, is really important for those more entry-level jobs.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think some of the jobs that were digital-ready people are going to come, from existing centers or move here, but you can't sustain it that way.
No.
You've got to grow it.
You run
right?
out of numbers.
And I think we have got to double and triple down on that, and I think we're too slow. I think we got to move much faster on the labor supply side, remove some of the constraints around that, create more seamless transitions across the post-secondary world and transitions from K through 12 into post-secondary. We've got to experiment with some different models. We should be really, really aggressive and creative about how to do that. I'm sure there are examples where that's going on, but not at the scale that it needs to. That's why, in that Amazon town proposal, I was so excited about this notion of stitching all 11 of our colleges and universities together,
Right.
in a seamless way to offer curriculum that doesn't exist today,
Right.
to do something innovative there, because in the end, it's going to be the supply side on the labor that's going to get us. Right? I think we've demonstrated that we can go cut some deals and create opportunities to bring some of these players here. I think the governor's done a really nice job of that. In the end, her ability to keep the promises and our state's ability to do it is going to come down to education and workforce development. We better get on with that.
Last question, a slightly different but related issue.
Okay.
Numbers off of Friday were digital had a spectacular Black Friday. Today's going to be another spectacular digital retail sales day.
Yeah.
Numbers for brick and mortar are looking
Yeah.
anemic.
Challenged.
And we're likely to have a significant retrenchment, failures, bankruptcies, restructuring in the retail world in first quarter.
Yep.
It's going to have a huge implication to Rhode Island, number of jobs lost, retailers closing, et cetera. Are we ready for that, do you think?
Oh, of course. Well, we the country are not ready for that, and no, we Rhode Island are not ready for that either.
We're still
You know,
mourning
but-
Benny's, which is 4 months ago.
I'm holding on. The Branch Avenue will be
Yeah.
the last one gone. It's still sitting there. No, I think this notion of thinking about this as one or the other. Here's bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
Here's digital. I think we got to get to what are the blended models in between. How do we
Well,
use
certainly
digital
some are
and cyber?
scrambling, right? Like
Right.
Walmart is scrambling to
Right.
create a dual structured organization, but most aren't. I mean, that's the
Well,
reality.
if you're not, if you think that just plain bricks and mortar without using the internet and cyber, to augment, to change the customer experience, I mean, you've waited way too long. But you're right, most are doing some exploration. They still see themselves as bricks and mortar. They still measure themselves financially,
Right.
based on, return on fixed assets
Right.
associated with bricks and mortar.
Sales per
Whereas
square foot.
Amazon has the luxury of coming the other way. How do we use bricks and mortar to open up a customer experience for those customers, that really value physical presence and being
Right.
able to touch and play with the goods, and having, somebody in person to deal with rather than online. They're already moving to that. Obviously, the Whole Foods acquisition, is a good example of that. I'm waiting to see what those blended models are. If you're in the bricks and mortar business, you've got to see yourself as in the retail business and not in the bricks and mortar business. And you've got to move much more quickly, to explore those blended models, to open up new customer experiences for new populations, or else you're going to get killed, and you already are.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge problem, and we see it here in Rhode Island, but it's true across the country, and it affects a lot of those jobs that economies like ours really depend on.
Right.
Because we have too much of our economy, right, where the jobs, are sitting in those service jobs.
Right.
Right? And so that's why, come back to the Infosys deal, that's why that's such an exciting deal for us, right? Because these are jobs that people need to aspire to and need to go get education and training, to be able to do. Because those jobs not only pay better wages, but they also deliver a career ladder where you can move up, right? Where you can work hard, you can get promoted, you can earn enough money to be able to live in what is clearly a higher cost place in the country to live. A lot of benefits to living here,
Right.
but it's higher cost. So we've got to create a workforce that can survive in that can be relevant in that, right? And that's something we have to move much more aggressively on.
I misled you. I said that was the last question. One more question.
Okay.
There's a game in between, but URI PC next Saturday.
Next Saturday night.
Yeah. Do you have a prediction?
Well, we're going to beat PC next Saturday
Do you
night.
still have some eligibility left that we were
Yeah,
unaware of?
no. I've run out of eligibility. A red shirt, whatever color the shirt.
That would be a
was.
gray
The
shirt.
Seton Hall game.
That was a big win.
That was a big win.
Yeah.
That's a clutch shot there at the
Yeah,
end, right?
right.
So I don't know. I'm hopeful.
All right, thanks everybody. Mr. Innovation, we were in mourning because we didn't have him last week. We appreciate all his time and energy and insights, great thoughts. Tomorrow, Ava Gaudette and Kate Nagel back to back from 3 to 4. Arts and Entertainment, 4 to 5. news and politics. Want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center and for our support at Deepwater Wind. Have a great month.